Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 2021 Austin Weird Homes Tour, the homeowner panel for it. So, thank you all so much for spending your Saturday afternoon with us. We are doing our eighth annual Weird Homes Tour, and so for those of you who may be new to us, have never been on one of our tours, maybe you saw like an ad and decided to try this out. A little bit of history about us is that, so my name is Kevin. I am the managing director of the Weird Homes Tour. We have been around for the past 8 years doing home tours of unique, eclectic, and odd homes. I got started in Austin, Texas. Austin has the Keep Austin Weird moniker, so we decided to make that ours and celebrate all the uniqueness of Austin and people who want to do things a little bit outside the box. Usually the tours have been in person, so you can go and see all of the homes on the tour. But in 2020, 2021, for obvious reasons, you could not do that. So we are doing a virtual event this year, and hopefully, knock on wood, in 2022 we'll be back doing this in person. You can go inside, see all the homes, talk to the homeowners, and all that fun stuff that people usually really like on the tour. So for this year, we kind of wanted to do something really easy for everyone. We've all been through a lot over the past year or so, so we decided to do these kind of pre-done home tours with unique homes, send those videos out to people, let you go, view them on your own, watch thing, or watch the homes whenever it's convenient for you. So we wanted to do that, but also we didn't want to lose the connection with the homeowners that people really like about the tour. So that's what this homeowner panel is. We have all of our homeowners that are involved with the tour, except for Cypress Valley. They can make it, but we do have some, we have a contact email for them. So we have the homeowners here, and this is kind of our time to get to know them a little bit, talk with them a little bit, and for you, the tour goers, to get all your burning questions in. So there is a chat box in there. Just go in and type in your questions and all that fun stuff. And we'll get to that as we go along. Hi, everyone. How are you doing?
Hey there.
Hi. So thank you all so much for being on the tour. And I think that what we'll do is let's kind of go around and do like a brief introduction for everyone. Tell us your name and what home you have, and kind of why was it on the Weird Homes, that sort of thing. So Michelle, let's start off with you. Oh, I think you're muted, Michelle.
Yeah, I was definitely muted.
Okay, let's get you back on.
Yeah, I'm Michelle Ashley, and I'm new to technology. I'm actually in Dripping Springs, Texas, and I have a property called Havenwald, and I build tiny houses, design and build out of mostly salvaged material. So you're going to actually see 4 of my houses, I think, on the tour. So I kind of have them themed. I have a Gothic Victorian, a steampunk house, a gypsy wagon, a storybook house called Robin Hood's Hideout, and I'm about half done building a castle, a tiny castle. So
very cool, very cool. And so let's move on to John and Natasha. Tell us about yourselves.
You want to go first? No. Okay. All right, me. All right. So I'm a retired tech guy. I was a hacker for about 20 years after I retired from the military, and I was 20 years special ops in the Air Force, doing a job called TACP. I think it's where I get all my crazy ideas from. So we bought this house about 16 years ago. As I said in the video, it was beige. The whole place was nothing but beige. And we both have kind of artistic elements to our personalities. So we basically turned the house over the years into our own identifiable space. It's not made to please anyone but us. It's our own personal effort, our own creativity. And I think, Natasha, what would you like to say about it?
Well, we started to remodel. That's what we started with. We basically started breaking stuff and making it our way.
Yeah.
So the whole house was basically
Boxy.
remodeled in space. So we rethought all the areas. Let's put it that way. We got rid of hallways. So it's a lot of interesting work was done in these years.
Yeah. I've gutted every house I've ever owned, to be straight with you. I mean, I really have. I have those little bit of skills where I can tear down walls and then put up drywall and things like that. So with this house, we were able to do that. We did get a lot of help on the cabinetry and other aspects of the place with using carpenters. But a lot of what you see is our own special work that we've done. Like I said, everything in the house in terms of design is our own special design. We did it ourselves. We drew it out. We measured. We did all the things that you do when you want to make a plan to do something like that. And just went to work on it, just went to town on it. So we're really happy with it, actually.
And we also lit it.
Yeah.
We lit it on outside. So the video doesn't have really shots when our house lit at night. So, but the house is lit at night, and it's kind of like gave us the idea that we're going to call it Lighthouse. A lot of people in the neighborhood they know our house because of the fact that it's lit.
Yeah.
So, and that's how kind of like the word went around. Somehow, Weird Home Tour got hold of us.
We also have about as much wall art on the outside of the house as there is on the inside. So we took a lot of our art that could stand up to the weather, and we actually like sculpture and things like that, and added it to the front. Gargoyles, all kind of cool things. Some iconic Eastern Orthodox icons, and I think moon and star things and cool things like that. So the house rotates through all the colors of the rainbow all night long. We used to have a lady,
right?
For 7 years now, and nonstop. And if you can discount all the power outages, right, which we probably don't. But to give you a good example, 7 years ago when we first lit it up, there was a lady who would sit in front of our house every morning. And
6 o'clock in the morning.
6 o'clock in the
She had
morning.
her coffee.
She would go to it's the bakery over on Hancock, and I can't remember the name of it right now. But she would go there and get her breakfast, her whatever she baked good in her coffee, and she would sit outside our house. And she told us that it looked like it was breathing to her. So
Change of color.
Yeah, and she was probably in her 80s, so it made us feel really good, to have like that kind of karma, like being directed. Oh, there's an outside shot right there.
But not at night.
But not at night.
We
So
we did
imagine
better
that.
with the photos and the video. So.
Yeah.
Well, very cool.
That's awesome.
Well, let's move on to Chereen. You're up on deck. Let's hear about you and the Graeber house.
Hi, I'm Chereen Fischer. I have a management company called Lodgewell, and we're very fortunate to have some unique homes within our collection of homes. So the Graeber house was featured on the Weird Homes Tour this year. It was built in the 1880s and renovated in the late 60s, early 70s. So it is actually a residential home right in the middle of downtown Austin, right on 6th Street. And so David Graeber did the renovations back, like I said, late 60s, early 70s on the main house, and then added the addition in the back with the pool atrium and guest house in the mid 80s. So I actually love that room. Kind of shows a century between the architecture. So we have the 1880s and then the 1980s architecture with the glass sky dome was helicoptered in. So that was pretty cool. And now it's available to rent for events and for overnight stays. There is no permanent resident in the home at this time. It's just a fun place to bring people together. So thank you for having us on the tour.
Oh, thank you. All right. Well, let's move on to Carl. Let's hear about you.
There we go, unmuted. Hey, I'm Carl. I have the place known as Morningwood, and also my manhunt named Jerusalem, which is where I spend most of my time in the backyard. When I got the house, it was the ugliest house ever, with pink kind of shag carpeting that looked like ground pork, and all the walls were pink, and it was really had been abandoned for 4 years in an estate. And so I got this place and told my mother I bought the ugliest house in the world. And Mama said, "Oh, no, don't say that. You're going to have to live there." I said, "If it's not the ugliest house in the world, I'll buy you a drink." And she goes, "Okay." So she comes in and she walks through the door before the renovations, and she was like, "Oh, my." I was like, "Well, there you go." And so spent about 8 months putting it back together. And then right after the home was done, we did a little place out back called Jerusalem, which is just a little man hut filled with a few things that I like. And so in the house, there's Jerusalem. In the house is my collection of art and other weirdities that fascinate me. And if they don't fascinate anyone else, well, that's unfortunate, but it's really just like y'all. I did it for me. And there's Jerusalem. You kind of don't really understand how crazy it is until you see this picture from wall to wall, because I didn't really see that image. So that's Jerusalem, and it's where I just kind of go to escape. The last few years, there's been a lot to escape. So that's pretty well the story of the house. Grandma house turned into not quite grandma anymore.
Well, thank you. So Sam and Barbara, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, everybody. This is I'm Barbara Attwell, and this is my husband and quite helpful staff for all my projects, Sam Ritter. And together we have a house that we built 22 years ago. And the whole premise was we wanted a house that it looked like it had been here forever, that it was ancient, it was old. And so we chose rammed earth, and they actually dug the soil off right where our pad, right where the house sits, and you mix it with about 4% concrete and you ram it, and all our walls are rammed earth. You can see behind us, there's parts that are actually rammed earth block. So there were places that it was too difficult to ram in a monolithic wall. So they had a block machine, and we built those walls out of rammed earth block. So our main goal here is that we never ever hurt wildlife. And every time you take something away from the environment, from the space, you have to put something back equal to a habitat. So if you take up 3,000 square foot of your house, then you need to really, pay attention to the habitat, put that habitat someplace else. Over the years, we've had the land studied. We have kind of an odd 5-acre parcel in West Austin that has endangered plants and possibly endangered species. And so we do everything we can to take care of it. I'm an artist. There's art everywhere. You can see there's some felted creatures behind us. My husband often wears a T-shirt that says,
"Fear no art," which is, it's just a mantra for me, because I do fear the art. It's all over the place here.
There's nothing safe from being art. And besides the fact that we never kill anything in our house and we protect wildlife, also the theme is never, ever, ever have the thought, if I do this to my house, it may not be sellable. This is your house.
Yes.
And it's the most important mantra, I think, that you can have. And the last thing is, of course, be totally conscious of everything that comes into your house. Where is it sourced? This is sustainable. We have tons of reused stuff, which if you get into building things in your house and you put the work into it, your house is so much more important and full of love than if you just buy something at a new store. So, and
that's it in a nutshell. The house is awesome, but particularly awesome on the property is a canyon. It's a 30-foot deep canyon that goes from right near the house and goes all the way back to the back of the property, that just provides wildlife with a spring, which is why our property, we call it Ebba Springs, named after a former dog that we had. And there's a waterfall at different times of the year back down in the canyon, and a running creek that runs all the time. And it's just a kind of a paradise of wild things, which we have lots of.
So we consider ourselves kind of in the Native American tradition. We're only guests, and anyone is always welcome to this property. We don't see ourselves as owners, but just caretakers. Stewards, yeah. And that's it, and I hope you enjoy the tour.
Love it. All right, and last but not least, let's talk with Autumn. Autumn, can you unmute yourself?
Hi, I'm Autumn. I'm the Giraffe House. I was on the tour last year, and I'm back again. So thanks for having me again. I have about a 600 square feet apartment, and for about every square foot of that apartment, I have a giraffe item, ranging from pictures to figurines. You name it, I about got it. You'll see George. He's my biggest one in my collection. I've been collecting since I was in the 6th grade. I had the amazing opportunity to shadow a giraffe keeper at the Gladys Porter Zoo. And that Christmas, my cousin Sarah gave me 10 pieces of the original collection, and it's gone nonstop ever since. It's been full throttle. And I am in the process of moving. So that's been a little crazy, packing up the stuff and getting it ready, but we're going to be building me a shed that will be my giraffe house, that will be the new home for my giraffes.
Love it, love it. Well, thank you all so much for being on the tour and showing your home. So, we did an introduction. Let's do some questions for everyone who's watching us live. Type in your questions into the chat, and we'll get to it. But yeah, let's kick it off. So, let's kind of start this off open to everybody. What is the one thing that you love about your home? Your favorite thing. You got to pick one. You can't just say I love it all. Like, give one aspect of your home that you just love the most, or item in your collection, whatever it is. So just jump in with whatever you got.
Stained glass.
I like our backyard wall. We have stone wall.
Oh yeah.
Incredible privacy. Love it.
Let your minds go wander. Okay. No, I like the stained glass that we created, actually. And a lot of the light work we've done. Oh, one thing. Yeah, only stained glass. Sorry. I'm done.
Okay. Let's see here. Carl, what would you say? You have a lot of stuff. What is the one thing that you can live without, that you just love the most? Oh, it looks like you're muted too.
There we go.
There we go.
Some people in my life would pay for that mute button. I think people's reaction is my favorite, because I see it every day. So when you get people that have never been here before, over for a beverage or a drink or a beer or whatever, just seeing their reactions, because it's a little far out of the normal's experience. And so just sharing that there is another world beside beige walls and Pottery Barn furniture. That's kind of a nice thing. That's what I enjoy the most. And just being able to hang out there and being able to close the door whenever I need to escape. So those are the thing that I like the most.
Very cool, very cool. And let's see, Sam and Barbara, I know you kind of mentioned the canyon, but is there anything in particular? And,
yeah, for me at least, I think the key thing I think I like about the house is the fact that because of the windows and skylights and the surrounding environment, there's light and coming in all the time. We hardly need electric light in this house because there's so much light, and it's just filled with the sense of its place.
And I like, in our front yard is a giant 27-foot tall bathhouse that I built out. It's like a giant floating rock. And then I like, over most of our doors, we have limestone tiles that are carved with poems. And each person in the family picked their favorite coin. And that's the other thing I like.
Love it. And Michelle, I know you have like a few different types of houses. Anything in particular that you're most proud of or excited about?
Yeah, I guess I would have to say I really resonated with Sam and Barbara. Is what I really love is that most of my houses are made predominantly of salvage materials. So I just love going to a junk store or Goodwill or an antique show and finding some crunky old hinge that's stuck, that's covered in 3 layers of paint. And I bring it home and I throw it in the crock pot and I cook it for a day on high and all the paint comes off and I get to see this beautiful artwork that was in this brass hinge made in maybe the late 1800s, early 1900s, and put it back into service and let people appreciate the beauty and the artistry that went into that. As I study the different elements that I put into my house, I learn about the history of these things and learning that like the first child labor laws were instituted by Queen Victoria, in the mid 1800s, late 1800s. And it was, I think, that a child under 5 couldn't work more than an 11-hour day or something like that. So, like the coal that these children were used to pull out of the mines because their bodies were small and fit in the mine shafts, that was used to heat the kiln or the furnace that melted the metal that went into these old pieces. It's like you're really truly saving the blood, sweat, and tears of children. So I love that. I brought a doorknob with me that I have. It's a hummingbird. I don't know if you can see that very well, but this is the kind of stuff that they did in the late 18th and early 19th century. I'm not getting the angle right because I'm dyslexic, but it's a hummingbird. And then on the sides are, yep, we're going the other way, Michelle. On the sides are griffins and dragons. And, just to see something like that people cared to put that much craftspeopleship and artistry into a doorknob or a hinge. I love that. And I pull down houses that would be crunched or burned. And, we take that wood and reuse it and give it new life. And it's amazing to me that I can take a 2x4 that's been inside a wall for 100 years and probably was a 500-year-old tree when it was cut down, and you put it on the saw and you cut it, and the air is just filled with this beautiful, like, piney molasses smell. It still has life in it. And so I love that aspect of saving the old growth forests that are standing in the form of houses and barns and buildings today and reusing them and giving them new life.
Love it. And Michelle, we're going to stay on you just for a second because we have a question from Katie Ann, who wants to know a little bit more about you. She wants to know, are you an architect by training? How big is your core team? Like, do you have a network of contractors? Kind of what goes into building the tiny homes?
Cool. Hi, Katie Ann. Thank you for your question. Thank you. I'm just reading it here. My core team is a gigantic core team of 1. And yet, as I say that, I have to give, pay homage and give credit to all the artists and the people in my life who have come before me that inspired me. I started out, painting. I guess you could say I'm an artist by trade. I painted a lot as a kid and sold some of my artwork. And then I just always loved architecture and I wanted to combine those two. I find like when I watch a movie like Ant-Man, I'm more focused on the fantastic Victorian house that is the house that they live in than I am in the storyline. And so I really wanted to bring those two worlds together and create something that was just unique and different. And I, after about 20 some years of being single, I added up what I had spent on rent and it came to like $192,000 and I had nothing to show for it. And being single, I could make enough money to pay rent, but to come up with like 50 grand for a down payment, I didn't have. And so I was seeking a better solution, and that's when I started thinking, well, can't I just like build a shed and put it in someone's backyard? And and then I started researching and finding there was this world of tiny houses, and that was maybe like 2010, maybe 2012, something like that. And as I looked at what was on offer at that time, it was like one company, Tumbleweed, and I just didn't, the houses were kind of designed more for like a bachelor. They didn't really suit like a mother with a child that might need to cook a meal while she watches her baby in the living room. And I thought, I think I can maybe put my artistic brain and my creative brain on that and come up with something that might be a little bit more, tiny, but a little bit more aesthetically pleasing, or at least to me. So that's just kind of how I started. I don't have a degree in architecture. And it really actually was a blessing that when I started designing my houses, I didn't have the money to build a house, because they'd be very different houses if I had, because I just would have built a regular house with vinyl siding. But because I didn't have money, I spent a lot of time researching, and I bought a pad of graph paper at Walmart and some colored pencils, and I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I tried to use SketchUp, and I was like, yeah, that is never happening. So I just started drawing, and I'd count the squares on the graph paper and draw my little designs, and I just started filling pad after pad of graph paper until I honed my designs. And then by the time I, found people who I could bring on board to help me do the actual construction, I had a little bit of construction experience. And then I brought people on, hired people and had some subcontractors that came and worked with me. And so we were able to create a little magic, and so I love my houses and I love what I do. So thank you for your question.
Thank you so much. And so keep those questions rolling. Kind of sticking along that kind of line of like how people got started and into it. Barbara, Sam, I'd love to know a little bit more about you two. And you're very passionate about conservatism, protecting life, wildlife, and all that. I'd like to know kind of how did that start? Like, were you both passionate about it from an early age? Did it develop over the years? Kind of, how did you develop this passion?
So I'll say about Sam, he's actually a dog whisperer. Bottom line, I've never seen an animal not respond to him, which is something when we first met really attracted me to him. It's a beautiful gift he has. And then I'm also an artist. I have a degree in art, and for whatever that's worth, and sculpture, and used to do casting. And but I also like architecture. I also, the same as you, I watch films and I just look at the buildings behind it. So, and my grandfather was an architect too. I think it's in the gene pool. And then one of my first jobs, totally accidentally, was running an environmental education program in Los Angeles on 200 acres of preserve in the middle of Beverly Hills, of all places. And we took in inner city kids who had never been off concrete, and we had a group of actors who would play games with them and teach them all about nature. And so that did it for me. That's all after that, I would fight between being an artist and being an environmental educator. And I worked at Jacob's Well for a while, setting up their environmental education program. And then eventually, about 5 or 6 years ago, I made this kind of umbrella for myself. Instead of feeling like the ADHD child of careers, I basically said, I do art and design, all in the service of wildlife. So then my sculptures became habitat towers. And then, I did more paintings about wildlife and the spiritual and deep emotional relationship we have with wildlife. And in our day and time, I think we are so removed from it that we have it's like a poverty of soul. Because we don't have the relationship just with the stuff right outside your door. And a lot of people don't have plants and animals right outside their door. So I think it's actually quite a deep wounding that we need to really work back toward healing. And I know that's not new to anyone, but to make it my work has been really important.
Well, Barbara missed that, or didn't say, maybe she didn't want to talk about it, but when we were before, when we were just dating, or maybe even before when we just got to know each other, by hook or crook, I ended up fostering a pair of raccoons, and then later a baby squirrel in my house because they had been abandoned. And I went to her because I knew she was the only other animal person I knew at the time, and she helped me in figuring out how to plug into the rescue programs in town and how to raise these little guys and raise them successfully and have them released. And it was just an amazing thing. And then Barbara, she and I, after we started dating, she and I got off on this kick and started finding out about all the bat structures around Austin. And this is even before the Congress Bridge became a bat haven. We went, or at least known, we would go and find these places like an old train tunnel where there were bats living under it. We'd go under there and look at all the bats coming out. I mean, it was, she and I really bonded over
Bats.
love of animals, bats particularly at the time.
Amazing. And I'll get a picture up of the bat structure, but while I'm doing that, let me get you, Katie Ann has a question. So, let me get this one. Okay, there you go. So she wants to know a little bit more about the little touches that you were doing, the casts on the walls and the floors. Can you talk a little bit more about that, how that entailed?
Yeah, so in the floors, when we cast the concrete, we put lots of stuff. We put a fork from my great-grandmother's house. We put geodes. We put mountain lion prints. We couldn't get our dog to walk on the wet concrete, so we had an actual cast of a mountain lion print. Over the doors, I used to be able to go get architectural salvage everywhere in Austin, as some of you guys, obviously this team knows about. And I got architectural limestone scraps out near Jonesville where they quarried them. And I took them to a cemetery company with the design, and they basically cut a stencil and sandblasted in. Then a lot of the tile work that is in the show, I got it from, there was a company called Architera still in Austin, and they make their own tiles. And those were the boneyard up against a rail track in South Austin, and they would let you go dig through all the tiles and pick up all the ones that had a little tiny bit of warp in them or they couldn't use them. So I got a lot out of that. And then we got our countertops from the UT Union, put new slate flooring in, and some of the flooring had tiny bits of pyrite in it, gold, and they couldn't use it. So we got that too. So there's a lot in here that was recycled. And like the other people in the show, it makes it so much fun. It's a lot of work, but it's the kind of work I want to do. We both want to do. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. And here's the picture of your bat house. I was trying to get it up in time, but yeah, there it is.
It's not a rocket taking off.
And what would fuel that rocket if it was?
Guano. A lot of guano.
Yeah, the idea in this one is the bats. We've had a few bats, but they haven't stayed. But the guano actually funnels down into the mound below, and then you could actually grow a garden on the mound itself. And at the base of the mound, right against the line of the grass, there's a lot of pipes and tubes so that wildlife creatures can run in and out and hide, and they're all different sizes. And we see all kind of creatures going in and out of that. But we don't have permanent bats yet, so we need a shaman, really. We need a bat shaman. Come call them in.
Well, fun. Thank you. And so let's keep those questions coming. Everyone who's watching, type yours in. I want to talk to Chereen real fast with the Graeber house. So, Chereen, something that's really interesting about the Graeber house, I feel, is not only is it like that it's on 6th Street, it's totally hidden, but it's the history behind it. And it's interesting because it seems like you have to walk this fine line between like preserving the history of the home and making it functional for people nowadays. I know you had to put in the slide by the stairs with Full disclosure, and now I can talk about it after I did it. I slid down that. After
I did leave you alone in the house for a bit.
I did. I nearly ate it. So there's probably going to be an insurance claim if I had stayed there much longer. But I'd love to hear more about that. Like, how do you walk that line between like preserving the history of the home and still like maintaining it and making it available for people?
Yeah, and so I kind of want to go back to the first question of what was the unique item, and it echoes some of the stuff, but it's more a concept. It was in a magazine article, and they called it, the headline of the piece was Hidden in Plain Sight. So I love that notion of it. Is like people walk up and down 6th Street, I've done it for decades, and I didn't even know there was a home, right behind this gate, and we're literally between Trinity and Natchez on 6th Street. And so that portion of 6th Street is historic. So the exterior facades of most of those buildings are protected. So there's very little we can do to the front exterior, which we're perfectly fine with and we like. And then David Graeber also has a lot of history behind him. And he passed away, I don't know, it feels like 5 years ago. So I guess about 10 years ago. And so we did a lot, in his architectural firm, Graeber, Simmons & Cowan is still around. So we did a lot to maintain the home as he restored it, because it was very thoughtful, lots of attention to detail. We like that kind of mid-century modern kind of vibe that's in the home. But then you do talk about layering. So that's the exterior facade where the little hump in the middle with the lights on in the property. And so that's the front door that Kevin was just hovering over. So we have Museum of the Weird to the right and the 512 bar to the left. So we're right there. But as you start to host guests and events and travelers and people who are not as familiar with the home, there are liability issues. So for example, that curved wall of the guest house kitchen that hovers over the pool, we had to kind of increase and raise that space, so you can't just dip over and go into the pool. Kevin also referenced there was a floating staircase in the main living room, which was beautiful, and the light would shine up the walls. And actually, the second thing was the shadows in the house. So that actually really features how the architecture and all the beams and careful things put in place really do amazing shadows throughout the day, which I consider art. But we couldn't have the open floating staircase. That seemed like a big liability. So we filled it in with wood, which then looked like a slide, which was not intended to be a slide. Actually, to the left of the stairs, you can see the white sheetrock on the bottom, but that's literally like a slide on the other side. But that's been kind of fun. And all I did was then, okay, well, we're going to put a solid baseboard at the base. So when people hit the wall, they're not going through it after I repaired the sheetrock about 5 times. So,
thank you for that, by the way, for me. So
do a lot of huge backup at 2. But I would say if we have to pick between the two, we lean towards honoring the history, but do make adjustments where needed for safety, I guess is how we would phrase it.
Okay.
So if you want to come stay in a brand new house where everything's perfect, this is not for you, because we're not fixing every single little thing. We're not modernizing every little thing in the house.
Well, I imagine, with having a house that is on 6th Street, probably maintaining it is a little bit of a challenge because, there's people there to have fun. We're
hitting almost 150 years old on that house. So that has its challenges as well, with the last major renovation being mid-70s. Yeah, there's constant upkeep and constant things to do. So, but we're also really good about aligning expectations. And I'm sure everyone on this panel knows their home is not for everyone, but for the person who is adventuresome or really enjoys it, is the perfect place. So just aligning expectations and serving our guests the best we can.
Fun. And so this next question is for Carl. Hey, Carl. So let me get it up real fast. So Katie has a million questions, which we love. Keep them up. So Katie wants to know, first off, she's warned you to never let her into Jerusalem because she'll never leave. But do you have any like projects in the back of your, tell us about Jerusalem too. And it looks like she wants to play matchmaker because she wants to put you in with Michelle to do a collaboration.
Well, there you go. Collaboration is great. In fact, some of the best things about Jerusalem, and we built a grotto beside Jerusalem about a year ago. And I worked with several folks on that, and people kept bringing me rocks. And so there was a lot of collaboration. And I worked with Chereen Smith, who, if you don't know Chereen, most of y'all probably do. We love Chereen. I call her the Mad Potter of Austin. Ceramicist for 1,000 years. Also on the very first Weird Homes tour, is that right? Was she on the very first? I can't remember the first or the second.
Think she was on the second, I believe. Yeah.
So
I'll get a photo up of her.
Yeah, she's great. I saw her today. She's doing okay.
Good.
She gave me some blue bottles for the new blue bottle tree. We have several sites. So anyway, collaboration is great. Love working with people, and really any great ideas are amplified through other people's lens and other people's eyes. And so you think you have a really great idea, but then it's added to or changed or repurposed, and it becomes even better. So I love that. And as far as, there's Chereen. That's at her brother's shrine. She lost her brother, a long time ago now, 15, 20 years ago. That's the shrine she built to him. It still exists in her backyard. So yes, and you need to come to Jerusalem regardless of whether you stay or not. There's actually a sleeping alcove, so you could sleep there if you needed to. We found that was necessary after people were entertained a little bit in Jerusalem. So it's just, it's an evolving process, always changing, always becoming something new. And sometimes that's just facilitated through the necessity to clean it. You have to move things around because you can't move just one thing. You move one thing, you have to move 40. And so it's ever evolving. We got some new chairs in there recently, so it's a changing thing. There's talk of another structure, but I think we might be at our limit for impervious cover. So I don't think that'll be happening anytime soon. We might go up though.
Okay, well, we'll have to get you connected with Michelle so you can build some Jerusalem tiny homes together.
Yep.
Okay, and so Katie Ann has a follow-up question for you. So, have you ever considered working on collage shadow boxes? It looks like collage is a very piece with what you're doing. What do you think about incorporating shadow boxes?
Collage. I didn't mention the thing that was really special about Jerusalem. The walls are covered with life drawings from University of Texas, dating from the 30s all the way up to the late 70s. And so Jerusalem is actually at its root, before all the junk went in, a giant collage, a piece of collage. And so I do a lot of little boxes. We call them body boxes, BAWDY. And there's always kind of a story or a story featuring around some kind of naked element. So I do a lot of collage work. I guess if I had to pick the art that I pursue the most, it would be collage. And so there's probably 20 of those little collage boxes, the Cornell boxes, if you will, the little environmental boxes. One of the art professors came from the University of Texas and said that Jerusalem was a Cornell box. And I was so amazed and flattered because in the very earliest times I was gluing things into cigar boxes. He was kind of my inspiration. My grandmother had given me a book that was just out in those days about his work. And that served kind of as the inspiration of making there we go. Yeah, there we go. And so a lot of collage work underneath it all. You can't really see because there's so much junk in front.
Yeah.
But it's all junk that I love.
I love this plaque. The escape is not a dirty word. Anyone face what's happening all the time. So
that is true.
You can see. Yeah, you can see some of the artwork there on the ceiling.
That one specifically in the middle. That one's by Professor McQueary, and so it all came from UT, and it all came from select students. And there's a few professors' works too, especially the works that were damaged otherwise and could not really be framed or displayed. They were collaged on the ceiling or on the walls.
Very cool. Well, let's move on to some more questions. Let me look through what I got here.
I'll just jump in and say I would love to collaborate with any or all of you. I think it'd be awesome if we got all of us together and we all collaborated and did like one phantasmagorical, wonderful, creative, crazy, weird home.
Kind of like a potluck home. Everyone brings this and that.
Yes, or a home collage, because it's, you know, I love that collage question because, you know, that's kind of like what we all do, it seems, to a degree. We bring all these disparate pieces together that other people would have thrown away or would have walked by or would have said, that doesn't go there. And we go, you know, I'm not going to do the sign, but we put up a sign with our hands and said, yeah, we don't care. We're going to do it anyway. And I think that's so, I feel like that's such a great thing to do as artists, whether you're, you know, a house artist or, you know, whatever name you want to put on it, you know, to be able to show people that you can think outside the box a little bit. You don't, you know, like somebody said, you know, we don't do beige and don't do anything because it's to sell your house. I remember when I was in real estate, it was all about keeping it neutral. And I was like, that's so uninspiring. Why would I want to live someplace that the predominant theme is neutral? That's like, so yeah. So I love that collaboration, and I love pulling things that I don't know where they're going to go, but I just know I love them, because I think when you open your heart to that, it's like, you know, it might sit in my shed for like way longer than I had hoped for, but eventually the right place will come and you go, oh, that's where it goes. And it's the perfect thing. And it's just, it's a beautiful kismet when that happens. So, yeah.
Yeah, I love it. You know, what you know, people ask me about the Weird Home Store and like, you know, okay, what's weird? You know, and like weird is just such a broad term that we use, but, you know, like the one kind of underlining kind of stream through it all is that like it's all homeowners that are passionate about something, and their home reflects that. And in doing the tour, we hope that that kind of passion empowers people to kind of go with what they're passionate about with their own home. Because yeah, with these house flipping shows, you know, there's like, you know, formula, you know, 1, 2, 3, or 4, you know, with how I should set up my home for resale. And, you know, all of the stuff that you really care about is like sitting in your garage. Right? So, you know, we love meeting homeowners and meeting, you know, people who are able to kind of show off, embrace what they're passionate about. And so that's going to lead me to this next question. So, John and Natalia, Katie has a question for you. Let me get you set up here. So, it's obvious that, you know, your love for each other, your passion kind of helps inspire your home. And she wants to know, like, did your boys grow up kind of around with the arts and with the kind of like the love that you two share on all the walls, or kind of tell us a little bit of inspiration?
So the kids, honestly, our boys have never seen the erotic work in our bedroom. I don't think they have a ticket to this show, so they still haven't seen it. Those are things we keep private to ourselves. We are sharing it on this tour because it is part of us. It's part of who we are. We don't care what people think, honestly. So we do. The boys did grow up around classical art. That was, for example, some of the work in the living room. The ladies swimming in the living room, I think, and also Natasha's self-portrait. But those are just typical nudity, and the boys grew up around that type of stuff. And we don't walk around naked or anything like that. But I mean, they grew up around that type of art, and I think that it was okay for them. I think it kind of taught them that it's okay to not be completely ashamed of the naked human body or nudity. So yeah, the boys on that level, if it's, you know, like, I guess we want to call it mature rated art, okay, not the X-rated stuff on our, but certainly, yeah, the rest of the art we have in the house, sculpture and things like that. But, yeah, there are certain things we keep private.
But our boys are really big.
Yeah, they're already big. That's kind of big. I mean, they have no idea this stuff exists, and they're like in their 30s now. So
big boys.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, are they like, you know, coming home and they see that and they're like, oh, mom.
They're not welcome to bedroom.
No, that's our bedroom. Seriously, that's our private space. That's our place. So,
so besides the,
Although the youngest one used to try to sneak in.
So besides, the normal human sensuality, the love they have for each other, it looks like, you're passionate about a lot of things. What else kind of inspires you to create art?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Like fill it in your own.
I think for me, beauty inspires me, but I think it's not beauty in the classical sense of beautiful men, beautiful women, that type of thing. There's so much beauty in the world beyond like the physicality of humans. Okay, then you go back to the physicality of humans again, and there's that beauty that is in every person and everything that you see. There's no such thing to me where humans are involved as ugliness, unless they're doing ugly things. Yeah, just viewing humans as they are naturally in every big fashion form. There is just so much beauty out there on that level. And I think maybe a lot of people miss that. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think a lot of people do miss that, particularly here in America, where we're sort of Kardashianed out and given like all these, I don't know, influencers and people that want you to look at their goals and things they've achieved. And you're supposed to get it. So it's that's not for me. That's not for us. For us, beauty is completely different.
And what I can add, what inspires us, music inspires us. We love to travel, so traveling inspires us. Nature inspires us. Definitely, so a lot of things. We like a lot of things. And definitely, we like John said, to appreciate beauty and any form. I like even the beauty of imagine the old house and some kind of rock near the old house and some plant growing next to the broken boards, I can find beauty in that, I think everything can be good. What you make out of it.
And we're very much in love. And have been for 15 years, so.
Well, speaking of love, let's go to Autumn because I have a question. So Autumn, you love giraffes, and I kind of want to know. So we've done this tour in other cities where we've had people who are like really into hippos, and like there's a group of hippo collectors, and they call each other the Hippo-lot-of-us. There's a lot of us hippo collectors, right? So, like, do you run into other giraffe collectors in the wild? Like, how big is this giraffe love community?
Surprisingly, no. I haven't actually found a group of people that collect giraffes. I did, from the last tour, I did get tagged on a Facebook group for people who find stuff, and there was one lady who talked about a small giraffe collection she had, and I tried to reach out to her, but I never got back to her. I did start a TikTok. With the pandemic, I had more time on my hands, so I made a TikTok with my giraffes, and I talk about my giraffes, and I have about 800 followers so far. So hopefully I'll be able to find more giraffe collectors. I would really love to be able to get to meet other people who collect giraffes, but so far I have not had any luck.
Okay, well, we're going to put that into the universe, right? And so if anyone knows people who loves giraffes, we got to get you together with Autumn, and then we can start the giraffe lot of us type of group. Well, I'm going to put everyone on
a long neck of fun.
I love a good pun. If you know anything about me, it is that I love a good pun. So we are at about 5 minutes till with the time. I think we could probably have this conversation for like the next 2-3 hours. But I'd like to kind of tie everything together a little bit for those who are kind of watching. And we talked about this kind of ongoing current of people, of all of our homeowners being passionate about something and then reflecting that in their homes. I kind of want you all to kind of give maybe your 2 cents on, for the people who are watching it, who have those beige walls, who might want to, have their home reflect their passions, go a little bit out of the box, that sort of thing. What kind of tips, advice do you have? Any words of wisdom from people who've done it themselves? And Autumn, you want to jump in?
Yeah, so something that a lot of people don't know about me is I was born with a rare eye deformity called Peter's anomaly. I'm visually impaired in my left eye and losing vision in my right eye. So every day is an adventure, and make it count. Live every day like it's your last. And my giraffe collection originally started with 6, and I've gone nonstop ever since, and it's just something that makes me happy. And life's too short not to be happy.
Here.
That's beautiful, Autumn. And I would have to say, just be fearless. Be unafraid to break the standards and break the norms. There are going to be so many people who tell you you can't do something like that. I had a former business partner that was a little bit like that, and it was this constant. Well, that's not the way it's done. Well, you can't put that there, and I heard a quote once. My sister Sarah told me that was, "Free yourself from the tyranny of the or," the word OR. Why can't we have a tiny house that is also really aesthetically pleasing? Or why do we have to put it on wheels? Why can't it? It's an and universe. It's an attraction-based universe. Let's free your mind, and if you, and just don't be afraid to even just put paint on the walls. I remember being in Home Depot one time at the paint counter, and I just talk to everybody when I'm out, and I was talking to some other customer about paint, and she was like, "Oh, I would love to paint my walls, but I'm just so afraid to." And I said, "Well, what are you afraid of?" "Well, I might not like it." And I said, "Well, you could just paint over it then."
Yeah.
And and it is a bravery test. When I used to watch Bob Ross and I learn and try to paint like him, the oil painting, he would say, and here's your bravery test. He'd get a whole background painted a landscape, and then he'd put a big brown line through the middle, and that was the trunk of a tree. But you're putting a big brown line through your painting that you just almost completed. And so I would say, yeah, just what do they say? Feel the fear and do it anyway, and just allow yourself to. And I've done things that I hated, and I went, okay, I'm gonna redo that, and you can most of the time. You can paint over it and make it beige again if you really don't like it or really hate it. So yeah, be fearless and don't listen to what other people say. Do what's in your heart.
Hey, Kevin, I want to chime in a little bit and lobby for white walls. So everybody keeps saying beige, but my 2 weird homes have been completely white boxes, with the Bloom house having no straight lines except for the doors that were added by the current owner. And then the Graeber house is all white walls. And so I encourage people to be brave and bold, like some of these properties and the unique characters. But I do think the white canvas is also a good way to just try out small things, like the art collection in the Graeber house. There's 86 pieces of art in the house that are all very colorful, but they live on a white wall. So you can be brave and bold without going all in, like some people do. So. Yay, white walls.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can, tiptoe in and like, hey, have rotating artwork, and then, if you want to take one step further and paint it purple, go for it, and if not.
And I go back to one of my favorite things about the Graeber house is the shadows. And so it's literally the blank canvas, but it was the architecture and the stained glass to the cut glass to the ironwork to the dome structure. Like those things make art all around this house every single day based on what the skies above do. On a gray day, there's less art in the house, and on a really beautiful sunny day, it just moves through the house all day long. So that's another way to kind of tiptoe in, is just with your structure and what that can do.
Love it. And Carl, it looked like you had something that you wanted to say too. In the middle of that, right?
I grew up in the house where my father, we can't paint the walls because we might want to sell the house. 35. He did go kind of crazy and painted eggshell one time, but it was always the damn white walls. So as soon as I got out, that's where the color came. And I advise people, get your damn glue gun, get your paint thing, do something to the walls. Just do it. Do it. Do not wait, because time's a wasting. You express yourself and just get out, be fearless, absolutely fearless.
And if you're in a rental
You can always
house,
fix it if it's terrible.
and if you're in a rental house where you can't actually paint the walls without getting kicked out, you can always hang stuff on the wall.
Yeah, and I would say
4x8 sheets of gator foam.
yeah, that's
There
right.
you go. There you go.
I would say along the lines of what a few of you have said, that your gift, you have a gift for the world, and it's almost not your job to question that gift, but what you're drawn to is bringing your gift forward, and there shouldn't be anything that stops that, particularly not your own shelter. And it's the most soul relieving thing to be free enough to make it the way you want it to be.
Love it. Yeah, and just kind of being someone who's been on the tour, like worked with the tour for years, that passion, that gift that you have, it's infectious. It's people bring that home with each other, and then they say to themselves, hey, if Autumn, can decorate her home with giraffes, I like Batman comics, so let me just take all my Batman comics and put them on the walls, because I want to see it, and why not, right? Don't be ashamed. You have your gift, share it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all. Oh, go ahead.
I was just
Final
going to say
word.
one thing. Austin's known for the motto, keep Austin weird, but I had a teacher who used to tell me, being weird is normal, being normal is weird.
It's awesome.
Yeah, they'll say, keep Dallas normal. I'm like, oh, okay, So, weird is what defines us as being different, right? It's like, it's the characteristics that separate us and define us. So, yeah, weird.
Yeah, whenever anybody's ever told me I'm weird, I always say thank you. I think normal is boring.
You find your people.
High five.
That's right. High
Thank you,
five.
Steve.
I'm always going, why am I weird? So I gotta
Right.
readmit it.
Right. Is it because I'm not like you? Oh, I think we should all get together and do like a workshop or something for people. I think there's
Yeah.
some line
That would be
here.
great. That would be great.
Yeah, seriously.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Hope you guys like gumbo.
Well, we're at an hour, and we could have filled this with 3 hours talking. So for the people who might have further questions, let's kind of go down the line and kind of give them some way that maybe they can look up more about you, see your website, see your Instagram, and then perhaps like reach out if they wanted to ask any questions or anything. So let's start off with John and Natasha.
You give them your
Thanks.
website.
Oh, you say me?
So what are we starting off with? I'm sorry, I got lost for a second.
So if people want to, people like the West Lighthouse, they will learn more about you, the art school, that sort of thing. What should they?
Sure. Well, let's start with Natalia. Actually, I'll let her speak. But I mean, she's an architect, has a master's degree in architecture, and I mean, she really is. I think the more talented artist in this house, anyway, for sure. If it looks like a kid drew it, it's mine. If it looks like someone like professional really did it, it's her, for sure. So.
Well, I don't know what to say about art. Art was always in my life since I was a kid. So it's thousands of work I've done. So I lost the count. It's thousands and thousands. It was a lot of study work when I was in school. I still have some of my sketches from school. They're incredible. They still amaze me these days too, because they're so detailed. I didn't have it in the show anywhere because we were in the process of remodeling, so a lot of things were moved. So, but anyway, like I said, art always been in my life. it fed me all my life. Everybody say, oh, artists are always poor, they never make any money. That's not true. I never had lack of money in my life. So art always fed me. I've done stained glass for years. I've done lacquer paintings, like on the little lacquer boxes. I made miniature paintings and sold that. I sold a lot of souvenirs, a lot of painted wooden instruments, even musical instruments like mandolinas
yeah.
and balalaikas. I would paint them and sold them. So a lot of work, of course, sold. And like I said, art has been my life, and I worked in public schools, even in Texas. Did several public schools work. I liked it, enjoyed it, and just change direction here and there because it gets boring in one direction. So we switch. Like if it's boring to paint, we do stained glass. If it's tiring of stained glass, we're tired of stained glass, we do sculpture. If, it's just always in the process or remodeling. Or traveling.
So we usually have something going on. It might take 6 months, but we usually have something going on that we're working on. Like right now, we have some sculptures out in the oven.
Always.
Yeah, there's always something going on.
So people want to learn more about that and learn about like the art school. Your website, artschool.com.
Yeah. Art school, natashasartschool.com. It's running right now on the screen, natashasartschool.com, and you can get all information there. You will see on that website my students' art, different ages from little kids to older kids, and you will see some of my art there. It's a huge website that you can go through different galleries. You can go through different information there and find out more about it. It's beautiful pictures and that's beautiful photographs. Welcome you there.
Cool. Thank you. And so, Chereen,
one thing about the lighting. Okay, just real quick. I made a joke earlier about we're probably responsible for a few of the shutdowns of the electricity. That's kind of a joke. Okay. Each one of the lights we use outside, they're a 2-watt system. So each light draws 2 watts per hour. That's nothing. It's also 28 volt DC. It doesn't use AC at all. It uses DC voltage. So with that type of a system, we can light up the outside of the house for about the cost of a Torchy's taco per month, which is not $20, but closer to about $7. It's about $7 a month are on the outside lights. The inside lights, everything inside is LEDs as well, including the lights that light up the home. So we have taken a lot of, I think, steps toward, not like having a home that just like wastes a lot of energy, so people can look at it and go, "Oh wow," So just thought I don't know.
Yeah, thank you. And only in Austin will we measure money in terms of Torchy's tacos, right? So that and all that fun stuff. So, Chereen, for the Graeber house, if people want to learn more about the Graeber house, maybe Bloom House, want to stay, that sort of thing, how they should.
Yes, it's probably easiest to go to Lodgewell, LODGEWELL.com, or .co. We have both. And then our Instagram's really good too. So just at Lodgewell. So I would say those are the 2 best ways to get a hold of us. Either go through our website or DM us on Instagram. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you. And Carl, for people who want to learn more about you, and like you do a lot of estate sales, so I assume that you probably post a lot of the quirky, weird things that you find on your own estate sales. How should people find you?
Hey. Well, we're on Instagram twice. Walter the Car is my personal account that deals with my old car and just general life. And then my estate business, Estate Services of Austin, is also on Instagram. It's a lot of fun. So Estate Services of Austin and Walter the Car.
We'll put these links on the description of this video too, so people can find them. So, Michelle, Havenwald, how do people find out about it?
Yeah, hey, my website is down at the moment, but we're kind of revamping it, redoing it. So it'll be, again, havenwald.com. That's HAVENWALD. Right now, you can also find me on Instagram, also Havenwald. And we're on Airbnb. 2 of the houses are on Airbnb. Robin Hood's Hideout, as well as the Gothic Victorian, are on there. So if you're looking to come to the Hill Country, to Dripping Springs, you can hopefully come stay with us, and you can see a lot more pictures there. Come out. We've got a little wedding pavilion, event pavilion. You can come and paint in the pavilion, or just get away. 6 acres of oaks and cedars and not any, you can't hear traffic, or at this point anyway. You can still see the stars. We haven't become Austin quite yet, so you can still see the stars. And so, yeah, I would love to have you reach out and come sit a spell with us.
Love it. And Autumn, for those who want to kind of contact you, I know you're really kind of you're very active on TikTok and all that. Where should people go if they want to follow you? Oh, I think we might have lost Autumn. I think frozen there. Okay, so we'll move right along. Barbara, Sam, where should people kind of follow to learn more about you all?
I have Sam's a writer, but I don't know if he doesn't have a website yet. That's up and coming maybe. I actually have a website that is Barbara Attwell, BarbaraAttwell.net. And if you want to go, I just have an old-fashioned mailing list, which I teach in my studio a few times a year. I teach eco printing and belting. And then I also teach through the West Bank libraries, and anybody they hand out supplies for free all this last year, and we go on Zoom and I teach a class. It's completely free to anybody, anywhere. It doesn't have to be in our library district. And I teach higher artisan crafts levels. I also do kids stuff too, but we do pretty complicated stuff, and it's really fun. So that's it, I guess.
Wonderful. Well, thank you all so much for sharing your amazing homes on this virtual tour. Thank you everyone who watched us live, participated live with your questions. We really appreciate it. This recording, this panel will be live for several weeks, as well as all of our tour videos for several more weeks. So if you haven't seen any, be sure to watch them, watch this video, and all that fun stuff. Thank you so much for participating. And we hope that we can have all of these lovely homeowners back in person in 2022 when the world stops ending and starts getting reborn.
Hooray.
And
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you,
everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
everybody.
Good luck to everybody.
We'll see everyone in 2022.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye, everyone.